Good afternoon. So I would like to welcome all the delegates, participants, colleagues, experts, and my friends. So today we are here for the Regional Policy Advocacy workshop on the circular economy. So the title we have, Moving Towards Circular Economy for Plastic Waste Management. So today we are looking at the circular economy for the plastic waste management as part of our series of the regional policy advocacy workshops under the Switch Asia. Switch Asia project is supported by the European Union, and they have a generous support for Switch Asia to mainstream sustainable consumption and production in Asia Pacific region. And under the Switch Asia program by the European Union, there are three main components. One is the grants itself, which are directly every year, many entities, NGOs, they apply to the European Union and they award the grants. And number two is a sustainable consumption and production facility, who are providing support at the national level and also providing the analysis and coordination of the program. The third one, where UNEP is a partner, is a regional policy advocacy component. And under the regional policy advocacy components, with great support from the European Union, we have been supporting on various topics on the sustainable consumption and production, mainly in line with the SDG 12. Now, SDG 12, responsible consumption and production, is the core for us to promote. So on the one hand, we are providing support on the national reporting and so on, but also on the core issues within the SDG 12. And as we see, the two major things, one is a circular economy, and other is a major challenge of the plastic pollution and marine litter. So we are combining these two, so using the circular economy as a tool to manage the plastics. So this is one of the key or priority areas, not from only the United Nations Environment Assembly resolutions and from the SDGs, but also from the national priorities, as the plastic pollution is creating major challenges in many countries, including urban flooding, marine litter, getting into the food chain, and so on. So circular economy for Asia Pacific SEEP is one of the major initiatives which we are preparing with many partners, and Asian Institute of Technology is one of the key partners where we are working today for this webinar. So joining the technical and research skills from the Asian Institute of Technology and also from other resource persons, today we are here to undertake circular economy for plastics management. Now, when we talk about the circular economy, our major support systems go for the policy and regulations on circular economy, on the financing for circular economy, on the technology or technical innovations in circular economy, on the business models for the circular economy, on the startups and innovative products and services for the circular economy, and most importantly, sustainable lifestyles and social behaviors for the circular economy. So combining all these focus areas, today we will be looking on the plastics or managing the plastics. And then on the other hand, we under the SDG 12, as well as under our core area work, like suppose on the green public procurement or sustainable public procurement, supporting the circular economy. So then we have a life cycle initiative, again in UNEP, that's also helping there. Then we have One Planet or 10-year framework program on sustainable consumption and production, supporting the circular economy. Then we have International Resource Panel under UNEP, that's also supporting to support the circular economy. And then we have a Partnership for Action on Green Economy page, that's also there. Then we have Environment and Trade. And also on the downstream side of managing the waste, the comprehensive support from the waste management. And also currently we have started supporting a lot on the COVID-19 related waste management. And again, packaging and plastics is one of the key areas which we saw started increasing during the lockdowns and also during the masks and gloves and everything. So again, looking on whole scenario of this waste management downstream, also connecting with the circular economy, today we are here to listen to the experts' opinions and also have a discussions. So before I invite the first expert, let me again request all the participants to please post your questions in the chat box. And at the end of the presentations, I mean all presentations together, we will have a Q&A session where we will try to respond to all the questions. So, and if some questions we could not due to short of time, then again we will post the responses online. So now, without further ado, let me invite our first expert, Mr. Jerome Lebonne. He's from Swiss Environment. So he will be discussing about how the European regulation is shaping the recycling market with a focus on REP. And the most important point is how to cross-fertilize the knowledge from Europe to Asia and vice versa to combat the plastic pollution through circular economy. So Mr. Jerome, the floor is yours.
So now that the IT stuff is solved, thanks everybody to be here. Thanks, Dr. Vissou, to invite me to this forum. And I'm very happy to be able to talk on that topic under the IAT, Switzerland and UNEP flag. It's always very important, I believe, to communicate the point of view of a company like Suez. For those who don't know us, we are the second largest environmental company in the world. We intervene in many subjects in the circular economy, on the waste side, the water side. And we are obviously extremely involved in the plastic industry. And as some of you probably know, we are even operating today a plastic recycling factory in the Bangkok vicinity. So as I'm the first speaker, I'm going to use a little bit that also to talk plastic a little bit and just to give you rough figures about where we are today. I think that plastic, it's about 400 million tons that are produced every year. And among these 400 million tons, you have about a third, about 158 million, which are packaging, plastic packaging, and which are most of the time single use. And this is definitely one of the key things when we talk about circular economy and when we talk about plastic. This is why packaging has been always one of the focus, because when you look at plastic used in other area like construction or automotive, we are in much longer cycle of production, and the impact is much less visible as it is for packaging. If you look at, I think System IQ released a report called Breaking the Plastic Waves a few months ago, and I found it very interesting. Very interesting, why? Because it gives you a bit of a view about where we are today when it comes to plastic going into the environment and where we're going. And this is quite, the arguments are quite strong. And so to give you a bit of an idea, today we are releasing every year about 11 million tons. So out of the 400 million being produced, about 11 million tons are being leaked to the oceans. But if nothing is done by 2040, which is 20 years from now, about 29 million metric tons will be released every year in the ocean. So looking at this, I think it's important to understand that the plastic crisis has not started yet. We are just at the beginning, and if nothing is done, we are going to be in a situation which will be even more difficult than it is today, with almost 4 times more plastic in the ocean than what we have. So it's extremely important that all the action that are being done, keep that in mind. We have to act because we are just at the beginning of having problem with plastic. But despite that, there's many things that can be done. And I think that it is very important to look at the different aspects of the industry and where efforts can be made. And you can see still from that report that we need to act in reducing our virgin consumption, in finding substitute, in recycling, in having better disposal, but also working on the mismanagement waste. And it's basically, it's when we start to look at holistically at these old pictures that we can really achieve a real results, and that we will be able to break that plastic wave and basically definitely have a better control of the plastic in the environment. And there is several paths to achieve that. The path I'm going to talk about, which is a European path, is really related to regulation. Some other country, I think in Southeast Asia, we can see that a lot. They try to rely on market drive as well as a voluntary basis to try to achieve better results, as they don't have either the regulation in place yet, and or sometimes when they have the regulation, they don't have the power to enforce yet all those all what is necessary, in fact, to achieve a reduction of plastic waste in the environment and an increase of the circular economy. Others are just, let's bet on technology. I think technology will save us in the future. That might solve the problem, so we don't have to tackle it today. So you have several paths to it. Europe has stringent regulation, and it's not new. It's definitely not new. Regulation in, I would say, related to plastic waste management are started in the 90s. And it started in the 90s with the sorted collection, a very simple tool. But that was a very important enabler of recycling, because, and I remember that I was a teenager at that time, and we went from one garbage bin to 3 or 4 garbage bin in the span of a few years, and it was very important because it allowed then the different waste operators, either private or public, to extract the plastic. It's also is a necessary piece, is enabling the second, I think, most important regulatory brick is the EPR, because with sorted collection, you gain a large amount of visibility, in fact, on the packaging itself, and that's enable EPR to be setting up. Some other things that have been done and that are in the process are single-use ban, for example. And you can see that since 2006 up until now, we had a large increase in the recycling rate in Europe, in the European Union. So it's vary from country to country, obviously, because every country has a little bit of their way to do. But the overall European Union recycling rate are steadily increased thanks to all this regulation. And back in 2015, the EU, and I think this is a very important step. It was a little bit in advance compared to the world in tackling this, but they released a strategy for plastic in circular economy. And that file is available on the internet, and I will advise all the audience to have a look at it. It's a 24 pages document, very simple to read, and that explain a little bit how the European Union looked at the different issue that they were facing and how they are going to be able to increase their recycling rate from 41%, which is basically in 2017, to a target, as you can see from the table below, about 55% in 2030. And among those, among all these different steps, I think that for me, key point and a very interesting one are the mandatory recycling content in PET bottle by 2025. I will explain to you what has been the effect of that announcement. There's also been a single-use plastic ban. So this one, I will look at it in a way that was a thoughtful single-use plastic ban. I mean, they didn't go directly saying we're going to take plastic back out of the system. I think they just looked at what was the main element that you found on the beach in Europe. What are the small elements that you can find on the beach in Europe, and how can you, with a ban, try to reduce the burden that you find in the beach. So the single use we're talking about, in fact, are, in terms of volume, not that much, but they are going to be the cotton buds. There are going to be some, plastic sticks to get to put the balloon on. They are going to be to get some small plastic ring that you might have on bottles. So they are very targeted ban to protect to protect the ocean and what we find on the beach, which are very often small spots that are not very easy to collect. So when we look at, so European in general always have a strong regulation, and going into the detail in all the regulation will be a little bit time consuming. So I've isolated two things. So the first one is I want to talk about EPR. So EPR is really a subject that a lot of Southeast Asian countries are thinking about and talking about. It's been in place in Europe since the late 90s. You have a different scheme of EPR depending on the country. It can be a public EPR, it can be a private or semi-private EPR, but they all have one main goal. And the main goal of the EPR is to address the main cost of recycling, which is the feedstock cost. And thanks to EPR, you are able to reduce the feedstock costs. And this is an important point because when you look at the cost balance of recycling, mechanical recycling in that case, I'm at recycling PET or film or HDPE, you can see that thanks to an EPR system, the feedstock cost in Europe will be around 37% of your cost, while if you are doing the same in Asia with exactly the same material, you'll have a cost at 47%. And that difference is basically the EPR, which is sponsoring the collection. Another good benefit of the EPR, I mean, it's translated into this reduction of the feedstock cost, but the EPR also is helping the municipality bear with the burden of the cost of collection. So because you are sponsoring the collection, and your feedstock cost is going to be cheaper than if you don't have this EPR system. So the EPR system is a very, very important policy aspect, as it helps to reduce this cost of collection, to alleviate the burden of the collection to the municipality, and in results, it has a direct impact to the economic competitivity of any recyclable material, which is absolutely necessary for the enabling the circular economy. Because remember that when you are having recyclable material, your competition is the virgin material, and that virgin material is always indexed to the oil price, which vary quite a lot, where your collection cost is always fixed. And in times where the oil price is quite high, you might be competitive, but in time where oil price is quite low, like it is today, it is extremely hard to be competitive in recycling. And we can already see the effect. I mean, since the COVID crisis, in fact, the recycling rates have decreased because there's less people using recyclable material, despite all the talks that there were a few years ago. So EPR is an extremely important element of policy. The second element of policy I want to highlight is the mandatory content. So you've seen in the table a few slides before that by 2025, there will be a mandatory recyclable content in PET bottle. And it's the first material they are targeted. We hope they target more of it, but it's the first one they are targeting. And why? It's because what the European Union have realized is that despite the EPR system, there was only 6% use of PCR in plastic in Europe, only 6%. And the reason why was that it didn't come from the competitivity only, it came also by the fact that the customers and brand owners, they were not aware of, or they are not willing to use PCR because maybe they think the quality is not as good, or maybe they think that there's problem in production, and so on and so on. So they found out that they had to put this mandatory content to force all actors in the system to use this PCR within their PET bottle. And this had a very, very important impact, is that it enabled basically to compete with virgin material, because as I said before, you are often as a recyclable material above the virgin price, especially when it comes to very high quality material like it is on a bottle-to-bottle PET food grade basis. So in order to compete to replace this virgin material, you had to have this incentive. And this is what this mandatory content has been. And we could see very quickly, basically, the effect. And it's quite amazing. So obviously, jumping on that, a lot of the brand owners went to their own target because they kind of realized that as the European was going into it, they will have to adapt. So I will say that global brand try to go even higher and try to commit use of recyclable. We have the Unilever, the Coca-Cola, but they understand that this is where it's going. So the first positive effect was to force brand owners and so on to adapt their target, taking that into account. And you can see that very quickly you had a decorrelation between the price of your recyclable PET and the price of the virgin PET. And the announcement of this mandatory content was basically in 2017. And you can see directly from 2017 this decorrelation happening because you had a drop in the virgin price, which was linked to a drop of the oil price, while the bottle-to-bottle REPT PCR, the price remained quite the same. And it was even amplified during COVID time. And COVID time, you know, the whole price dropped quite low. The plastic price dropped quite low, but the price of this REPT PCR did not drop much and stay at the level it was pre-COVID. And this is linked to this regulation. And this enabled the recyclers to operate and not to be in difficulties. And we can see that at a direct impact because if we look at the rPET price in places where you don't have this regulation, it had followed the virgin. If you look at the rPET price in an application which is not regulated like textile, it has followed the virgin. So this mandatory content that allow the rPET price to remain at a level that allow recyclers to operate. And that is an important point. I think that you probably have seen in many communication in the past 6 months that the recycling, in fact, and the recycling environment was difficult. And it's difficult for every recycler in making it in Asia or in Europe. But rPET, thanks to that, has been able to operate as it's planned and being able to do what it is necessary, what is there to do, which is basically enable the circular economy for rPET and the bottle. I talked a little bit earlier about technical breakthrough and how maybe some countries or some environment they are focusing on getting to a technical breakthrough to solve the issue. And I think it's interesting to look at that in another way, is that in fact, I believe that regulation and technology go hand in hand. And this is definitely always the way that the European Union have looked at it. And I think that I wanted to highlight a debate that we have today on chemical recycling. It's quite a very interesting thing, is that chemical recycling is a technical breakthrough. I think everybody will agree on that. Maybe we are not there yet. Maybe there's a few years before it's reached a commercial, full reliable scale, but it's coming and it's there. But if today you do a chemical recycling plant, like a pyrolysis plant in Thailand, you'll compete with the oil price. If today you are doing the same in Europe, we'll also be competing with the oil price, because the regulation is not there to help, even if you have a breakthrough, to help categorize the value of the material that will get out of a petrochemical company that use your, what I will call here, recycled feedstock, your output from your chemical recycling plant. So one of the things that Europe is trying to look at, they're trying to look at, should we, and this is still an argument, there's still debate, so nothing is fixed, but policies start with debate. And the debate is, should we use a mass balance approach in order to enable petrochemical plants to, if you want, if they have 10% off, or if you use 10% off output from a chemical recycling plant as a recycled feedstock, instead of saying that I have a virgin that is always 90% virgin, 10% made of recycle, they can allocate that mass balance into a product in which they will have a higher recycled content. And this has pros and cons, but one of the pros is definitely that with this type of mass balance approach, you definitely have an incentive because you will be able to get a higher premium out of your recycled feedstock than that if you are just on a dilution base, in which it will be very difficult for the petrochemical company to get the premium on their product. So in order to drive the chemical recycling industry and maybe also to decorrelate it from oil price, this type of regulation is probably going to need. Another aspect which is important when we talk about regulation is also how regulation can also enable good decision. Again, chemical recycling is great, but the environmental impact is not, or probably not as beneficial as mechanical recycling. And therefore, it's important that there's also that getting into account when you look at your regulation. And don't forget that when we talk about plastic recycling, we're not only talking about preserving the ocean or the environment, we're also talking about carbon emission reduction. And as you know, you have the Paris Agreement that impose target of carbon emission reduction to Europe, and achieving circular economy and achieving 55% recycling rates is also helping the European Union to achieve this carbon emission reduction, because by each ton of plastic that you're producing with mechanical recycle, you have some carbon saving. Okay, and I think that will conclude my presentation. I think that I will, as I said, I advise you to look at the European strategy on circular economy. It's very well made. There's very important things that are put out on why they choose to go that way. And when we look at policies, you have to look at policies on the input and how to control your feedstock to enable the circular economy, as well as how to make sure that people will buy the product, which is your offtake agreement. And this is really enabled by strong regulation.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Jerome Labonne, for wonderful insights, especially on EPR as a very effective tool, and not only for the producers, but also for the local governments to manage the waste, and also looking on the regulatory ways to make the mandatory for the recycling levels, and also combining the regulations and technology hand in hand. So, and as you really highlighted, the European Union, they just launched the Circular Economy Action Plan for this year in 2020, and that's very important insights providing how we can effectively learn from the Europe and to roll out the circular economy in Asia-Pacific region. Okay, now let's move to my next resource person and expert from UNEP, Dr. Feng Wong, and he will be talking about the UNEP's work on building circularity in plastic value chain. Dr. Feng, floor is yours, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Feng Wang. I work in UNEP. I'm a colleague of Mushtaq. Today, I will give you a very brief presentation on the work that UNEP is working on circularity related to the plastic value chain. I'm working in the economy division of the UNEP office in Paris, and our work focuses mainly on sustainable consumption and production, circular economy, and life cycle thinking. So quite a good overlap with the work that Mushtaq has introduced. Before we go into the specifics of the plastic issue, I would like to provide an overall, let's say, approach that how we are targeting the issue of different type of pollution and also sectoral work. Essentially, when we are approaching the plastic pollution and circular economy, the vision in our head is that we want to rethink the system to see how do we still keep plastic at its highest value, because essentially plastic is a very useful and also important commodity. At the same time, we'll need to see where it does not pollute our ocean environment so that we keep the function while we reduce the impact. There are different, let's say, key aspects how we approach the issue. The first of all is that we're looking to the entire value chain of plastic, so that we do not only focus on waste management, but also looking to solutions at upstream from different stakeholders. At the same time that we want to have strategic intervention points from different dimensions of the intervention to tackle the problem. One of the key element is also to see, can we actually consider more chemical for concern to keep them out of the loop, so that when we talk about circularity, we reduce the chemical concern in the loop itself, so that when we recycle material and reuse material, there's less impact from the chemical contents. At the same time, we want to take a full systemic and also life cycle approach, and also working with actors across the value chain. There are a couple key elements and also dimensions where we are designing our intervention. First of all, UNEP is a typical organization working a lot on knowledge and science-based knowledge, so that we provide evidence, assessment, and analysis to support decision-making. At the same time, we also implement activities on the ground, so that we introduce, let's say, new policies, new technical guidance, and also interventions at different levels. At the same time, infrastructure is also critical for dealing with the pollution for many different waste streams and also problems. Alongside with that, we also need the support from consumers and the business users, so that we work on awareness campaigns and also consumer information. Last and also the final point is that, as Jerome have introduced, there are always forerunners in the business and in the government, so that we can take the learning from them, learn from the leadership and different countries already implementing measures, while encourage the sharing of knowledge among different countries, so that we can improve peer-to-peer learning. So this is in general our approach, how we deal with the pollution issues, not only for plastic, but also many other sectors. This graph shows how we usually understand the issue of a value chain, and also how do we design our intervention. The first thing we usually do is that we want to understand within the country or for a specific value chain, what are the key polymers and products or life cycle stages, pathways, fates, and also different categories and also geographic locations are causing the whole pollution issue, so that we understand better the key hotspots, as we just covered many different dimensions of the pollution. At the same time, we design holistic solutions, including both upstream solution, dealing with design, production, consumption, reuse, and then also engaging downstream solutions, including collection, disposal, recycling, and final treatment. So that when we develop a series of intervention options, we engage with different stakeholders to see that which are the key actions can be prioritized based on the national or stakeholder priorities. And then we, let's say, team up with different stakeholders and also have a discussion to reach a common goals and to design a orchestrated solution. So this is our mentality of provide technical support to the business and governments. How do we design our intervention? A lot of our work on circular economy in UNEP is organized under the UNEP Circularity platform. We are working on issues related to plastic pollution, textile, electronics, and extractives and chemicals, and many different sectors. So we are using the similar mentality and approach to tackle different problems, hopefully with harmonized thinking and also differentiated or adapted approach. So this is in general how we look into the circularity and circular economy of different sectors and different problems. I'm now going to a little bit depth into the plastic work we are doing. First of all, I would like to introduce a global project we just finished last year, that we took stock of the global plastic value chain, looking to different initiatives and action being taken already. And then we conclude with the key gaps for action, and also a set of recommendations for future activities. So all our work has been well represented in this 5 publication, so that there are links on this 5 publication that you can access in the end. Here I will provide a key summary of the main learnings. So this slide shows the key, let's say, results from our analysis. It's quite similar to the reference Jerome have mentioned already, so I will not repeat here. Essentially, what you can see from the top graph is that plastic waste coming from the production and consumption of different plastic products in different sectors, and the leakage of plastic into the environment happen actually at all stages of the life cycle of different product. This means that, as you can see from the first graph, leakage of plastic into environments happens a lot at the use phase, mainly from microplastic, and also a lot from end of life, that's for macroplastic. So this means that we need to look into what are the key leakage points and also process that causing the leakage. At the same time, plastic is not only a group of certain consumer products, they also include primarily emission of microplastic and macroplastic. So we were able to break down all the leakage in terms of different polymers, in terms of micro and macro plastic, in terms of life cycle stages, and also different product categories. So within this couple of reports, we were able to present a whole overview of plastic leakage from different parts of the value chain. And you can see more details from the publication I will be sharing in the end. Well, going from analysis to solution, what we have summarized by analyzing the literature, but also engaging with the stakeholders, is that there are many different interventions along the life cycle products that can covering the very upstream, that dealing with material engineering in design of materials and products, and then also as well as business model. At the same time, engaging with consumers during the use and consumption phase, and also most importantly as well, that's to work much better in the end of life recycling scenario. So as you can see that individual activities can be taken during different phases of life cycle. They're all, let's say, very, very important. And I'm not going to go into the detail, but you can take a read of the detailed action points in the slide and also the publication. At the same time, as you can see that if we divide the actions in silos, probably it will not work together very well, because in the end, we are targeting the pollution for the entire value chain. This means that there are much more important work, not only at individual stage or stakeholder level, but also more cross-cutting. This means that we have to develop actions on knowledge, which means that we establish a more harmonized nomenclature measuring system and understand the current situation of the pollution. At the same time, we need a set of policy and financial instruments, like Jerome has introduced, mandatory pollution control legislation, EPR, economic incentives and procurement, and also consumer information program, etc. So this is where UNEP have been designed different support to countries and also consumers on different policy instruments. And then on technology, we still need new technology for both material, product design, as well as recycling and collection methods. So this is where we have to work very closely with the private sector. In the end, we also need to work at a global level. This means that there is always the issue of transboundary movements of products and waste that need coordination among countries and stakeholders. So this is the key area we do believe that future circular economy program at the regional, national, and global level should focus on. Apart from the general recommendation, we also conclude there are a couple of key sectors that are essential for targeting the plastic pollution. Essentially, we have packaging, PET bottles, single-use plastic, textile, cosmetics, tourism, fishing, agriculture, and shipping. So this is the key sector causing most, let's say, leakage, as well as impact to both land and marine pollution of plastics. And we have recommend specific action and also program to deal with them. In the end, based on the learning of the project, we were able to conclude a global action or roadmap to achieve circular economy, which is available for you to check. We have designed specific indicators, actions, and also responsibility for different stakeholders and different time horizon in order to implement circular economy at global level. So all the materials and also the learnings and also conclusion I provide here are available through the slides and also the report I will be sharing at the end of the presentation. Now I'm going to spend the last few minutes on the other project we are doing, and also hopefully to provide some inspiration. How are we tackling the plastic issues through circular economy? As a continuation from the last project I mentioned, we are now implementing a new project with $7 million in the Latin American cities. Actually, we'll be pilot testing circular economy in 6 Latin America cities to see how we can actually implement circular economy at the city level, because city is a different scale compared to a country, which perhaps sometimes actions are more easier to implement and design, while stakeholders and action needed are more specific. So in this project, currently, we are aiming for a circular economy vision in those cities that with less plastic leakage and pollution, with more circularity and better collaboration with all stakeholders. So we are now designing interventions at municipality level to work on policies, financial instruments, and also pilot project to support the local government, the city level to implement activities there. At the same time, we want to work closely with the private sector. How do we better test new designs, reuse models, business model, as well as smart collection and recycling system, while organizing through industrial roundtable and collaboration to glue the private sector together and working with the public sector. And at the same time, I think the pilot work we are doing will always have very limited scale. So we want to set up an intercity networks for cities to learn from each other and share experience. And then the last thing is to also build capacity to increase the learning and also the, let's say, the uptake of the circular economy solutions in the city. So hopefully within a couple of years time, we can share more progress from the city level work from Latin America with more stakeholders from Asian region and also other region, so that we can differentiate our intervention at different scale, geographic scale. There are a couple of other projects I want to also highlight here that's ongoing, and we see a very good level of uptake and implementation. Earlier this month, we organized already a webinar towards the Asian region on a new guidance that we have developed for to support countries to understand their plastic value chain and also shaping action. Essentially, this kind of practical guidance with Excel sheet and also practical tool serve as a purpose to help a country to make assessments of the key plastic hotspots from import, production, consumption to end-of-life recycling, so that to have a full picture of the key areas of intervention and develop solution. So the guidance is a set of different modules and tangible practical tools that people can use easily. I will not go into detail. You can see all the modules and the Excel sheet and the methodology in our website being showed here. And actually, this is the result from a pilot testing we have been doing and also finishing in Thailand. This is a key output of our tool. You can see that we're able to map what are the key inputs of plastic in terms of consumption and production, what are the key hotspots in terms of mismanagement waste and collection rates, what are the quantities being collected and not collected. At the same time, in the middle, the hotspot related to product, plastic product, polymers, and also different leakage point in end of life stream. And then we are able to provide a concrete action point for interventions. So this is a tool we just released together with IUCN, and we believe it can be applied in many, many other countries. And actually, we are in the process of developing capacity to use it for support country to define the actions on plastic pollution. So this is almost the end of my slide. At the same time, as a team, we also published already in this process of 7 to 8 reports to use LCA to compare different single-use plastic products with the alternative. We already finished a study on plastic bags, bottles, cutleries, and we are working on masks, beverage cups, and nappies and sanitary products. All those reports are available in our website. In the end, we also work with different countries to encourage them to sign up to a common commitment. And also we have working specifically the tourism sector. So I think my presentation is quite comprehensive. All the work we have been doing are provided in the link here, and we'll be able to also share our slide with you. Essentially, this is how we approach the circular economy issue, mainly from both upstream and downstream, working for policy, business, and also knowledge and innovation. So thank you very much, and it's a pleasure to share our learning with you today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Feng Wang, very comprehensive presentation focusing on using the science-based interventions in policy, awareness, advocacy, and also the capacity building and implementation. So now, without further ado, next presentation, and let me invite Dr. Wasimon Roglek from Siam Cement Group on the leadership in promoting plastic waste in downstream. So let's invite Dr. Wasimon. Floor is yours, please.
So hello, everyone. So today is like, I'm just represent the SCG, just you know about our company. So SCG is a company with the 3 business units that we do have a business on cement and building material. And we also have the SCG chemicals to produce the plastic resin and also the packaging for paper packaging. Okay, so we do have the vision in terms of sustainability and innovation. And we do have the SCG circular way that we try to link. That's just what it's related to what the topic that we are talking today. Because when we're talking about the circularity, so we need a lot to do, right? So from this one that I mentioned before in some other talk, we're talking about the integration of the system that is required to create the circular economy. So the policy that you guys already heard about, and also some of the business model, and of course, the technology and innovation that require. And besides that, you need to make people aware, because it's not just you to create the circular ecosystem. The consumer also play a very important role. And of course, from the consumer, so you have to collect and sort that kind of circular material and bring it back to create a different or a new material, which require the upcycling concept and also the logistic that link to that. And definitely all the material that has to be processed has to be able to kind of easier to design for it to have the recyclability. Okay, so these are the key things that from our point of view is what's important. And how SCG is doing it. We are working, of course, not by ourselves. So we believe in collaboration, and we think we need friends. So the friends from international side to provide some support in terms of the funding technology, and of course the learning, because everything is quite new for the circular economy, not just for Thailand, but it's also for the global level as well. I think everyone is trying to work with each other on that. And of course, as our colleague, the policy is very, very important, and the knowledge. And besides the friend from abroad, we also work with friends in Thailand. So at the national level, we create some kind of a pilot model to implement and to learn in terms of some infrastructure intervention and some of the policy link with some innovation in order to change the life, end of life of the plastic. And of course, how to make it very cost effective. Logistic within the national level is very important factor. And of course, more friends, not just to work with our national friend, including the government and the public-private sector. We also need friends from the business part, because we do we call closed loop, as you heard from many of our friends earlier about the closed loop project that we've been working together with many friends. So I will give you some example of these kind of 4 categories. And the last one is also about the community. It's a very important issue, because when we're talking about bring the plastic back, So you involve a lot of people, and of course the community around you or within the country also play a very vital role. And for SCG side, we starting from our own knowledge building, right? We start with our own employee. So start from us, and then learn how to utilize the waste, and we know how to separate. And of course, we need to put it in the right bin. So that is the first, a very tiny point that we try to work with our employee. And of course, as I mentioned earlier about bring in the international, like we work with the UNEP, of course, and also with other organizations, just bring the knowledge from abroad and also for SCG and for the nation, because we not just work by ourselves, and it's not just for business, it's also for improving the country capability in terms of the waste management. And this is the concept of the international. And like I mentioned earlier, that we work a lot with the UN South and also the UNEP that's been trying to promote what is circular economy and how it is important in terms of the mass of public with the symposium. But then it's not enough for us. So we think that to work together with many sectors, we also work abroad with, I just want to introduce the Alliance to End Plastic Waste. So it's comprised of kind of 57 companies join force together, and actually they are supporting many projects, about 19 projects already across the globe. And for Thailand, we also helping together with the Federation of Thai Industry and the Public and Private Partnership, PPP. So we work in order to apply for funding. So it means we allow the chance for the international to come in, because the most important for circular economy downstream is to create the system, including the infrastructure and of course some of the conversion, which is related to the technology that I will talk about later. So for the project in Thailand, actually we received about 58 million baht from the alliance. It's ongoing contract is been kind of finalized, and the money will be transferred to us to do some pilot about the conversion of the kind of the utilization of plastic. And of course, within the Megacity project in Klong Ture area of Bangkok, and of course in Rayong province, in order to implement some kind of project related to the intervention of the infrastructure and learning about the support that we may need within this city. So this is part of the project that is ongoing. So with the Alliance, it's not just the funding, but it's also help to bring in the knowledge, because of the knowledge from many partners, like I mentioned earlier. So these are the scope that require the need, especially related to the technology. When you're talking about collection, sorting, and of course the advanced recovery and recycling, and the design for circularity, and of course, how can you create the market value from the recyclate? And definitely awareness of people cannot be ignored, because you need to understand the societal behavior in order to change and bring them to educate them in terms of how to do the sorting better. What's the benefit for them? So the knowledge I'm talking about here is you can see that the various type of technology that related into these kind of 5 categories. And of course, we not just doing it with the Alliance, but they also working with many organizations like USAID, GIZ, and the UN Habitat and other. So a lot more that's been working together. And the technology I'm talking about is also, this is just example. Like within the Alliance, they do kind of initiate, we call it a plug and play, which is a startup, and some of the technology that related to the waste infrastructure. Okay, so you can see that the different category here These are the name of the company. I think our colleague in the later talk will mention about this thing more than me. This is just some example that we also gained from being friends with international and ask for some help and work together. Okay. So I just want to go into another category of the national. So within the national itself, so we are trying to kind of learning from the national with the project of the PPP, public-private partnership. And we do focus on infrastructure and the consumer behavior change. So we start with some project already that working in Krong Thoi area. And of course, some of the learning there can be transformed to the new phase of bringing more technology. Okay, so with the technology from learning of those phase one, so we already learned that there are some gap, and we already established some kind of full submodel like department store, hotel, office, and also the small hospital. And these gaps can be closed with the technology. I will go quickly because to have the understanding of the end of life of this kind of waste material, you have to create a new life. And of course, some of the policy and how can we help people to sort better. And of course, the convenience, and definitely the key important one is the business model. So within the new project, we will work with a different sector in order to bring in the research on the motivation, like the suggestion from the previous talk. We also bring in the learning from the how to motivate people. We will put some intervention of the infrastructure of the drop-off. And of course, one of the technology that will be very important is the digital platform that will link this and bring including the market itself for the plastic waste, the alternative trading, and of course the training and create awareness. So this is just so one of our many projects that SCG has been working on. And within the community, just to share with you that you can go into this link of the ebook of Waste to Wealth. We work with many community that they already have a lot of successful case that been working with the community and create the money, because they are the key group of people that will help us expand and link into the circular ecosystem. Okay, and this is just example that SCG has been working on with many sector about the prototype communities on different part of Thailand. Okay, and of course create awareness for try to utilize this kind of waste just to create the better environment is also part of it. Okay, and I think for us it's like this is a business part that we also work together with AIT and Bill and Melinda Gates, because water is also part of the circular economy in the future as well, not just plastic. So just to mention that. This is the example of the plastic road. So I'm just go very quick about the digital platform that we already implement and try to expand more. Okay. And some of these that we've been working with, like with some of the private sector to create a new life for the fishing net, for the share, and some other thing. So the technology that we try to finish up is like the recycling technology. Besides mechanical recycling, of course, chemical recycling is also part of within our study. But at the moment, as everyone mentioned, that it will take a few years. So, but for us, we might be working on this as well. And the technology mostly will involve with the waste management. So you can see that from the logistics service, from the drop-off side, and of course, how can you convert the food waste, which is play a very important part. So most technology will come to us. You will start to see it more like talking about the bin, and of course, these are the cost reduction as autonomous driven truck, and of course, the electronic device to link with the garbage collection and more of those. and of course the conversion of the plastic material. These are a lot of technology that we'll bring in terms of implementation on some for the suitable one. Okay, not all of this will fit with all. So I think we will touch base on just this technology in terms of the collection, and of course finally I think the green chemistry is also part of our thing that we need to think about, because some of the material cannot be recycled. We have to think from the beginning. I think that's all for me.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wasimol, and quite a comprehensive way to share that how a company like Siam Cement Group is working on promoting the circular economy through the businesses, through the extended also efforts, and that's the way innovation and sustainability can work for the circular way. So now let me invite to learn from how the entrepreneurship can help the circular economy. So I would like to invite Dr. Atilaya Panuwat-Vanish for the presentation. She's Managing Director for Inc. Esquire, and she'll be talking about the plastic circular economy through developing entrepreneurship. Floor is yours.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for your introductions. My name is Atitaya Panwatwanit from the Inc. Square. Inc. Square is a startup company from AIT, which we mostly working as a consultant for many small entrepreneurship. Yes. Okay, maybe I would like to jump these slides because many experts already present that. Then we go to the Thailand situation. In Thailand, we create like over 2 tons a year of the plastic waste. And unfortunately, we recycle only 0.5 million tons, or just about 25% of that. The government tried to solve the problem. Then they already approved the roadmap of the plastic waste management. By at the end of 2077, they would like to have like 100% of plastic recyclable in the country. And based on that, the shift toward the green strategy, Thailand tried to promote the transition from the linear to be the circular economy by focusing on like also TR strategy, reduce, reuse, and also recycle. Under the cooperating with many organizations like Dr. Wasimol already presented previous. And then together with the 5 business model approach and also the disruptive technology, I would like to present the entrepreneur in Thailand that working under the circular economy slide by from the linear. Then the first thing, if we just focusing on the inside factory, like reuse, remanufacturing, reduce, and replace. For sure, SCG, they already presented the details what they are doing, and also another big name like PTTGC, they also started inside their business unit at Wales. But however, if we like look for the whole loop, like the recycle system, and we start from the end user, we can know that the first thing that we have to focus is a collection system, and the end user, how they can connect with the collection system. For next slides, I will go into the details. They usually use their mobile app, and after that, the collector guys, they will send all plastic waste to many separations and also the cleaning process, and until the end of the recycle factory. And also depend on the size and facility of the company. Some they just can clean it up and compress and then further send to the big factory. But some company, they also can do for whole process until they produce the like rPET or raw material and throw it back as a material supplies back into the process, and also depend on the company what they would like to use as a raw material until also can produce like plastics or textiles as some experts already presented. Then for the remaining of the plastic that can be recycled, we also can use as an energy. In our country also have some company, they accept the unrecycled plastic and use the RDF technology and then create the waste to the energy back to the process as well. Then I would like to start from the started point of the user. In our country, we also, after we have the plastic waste, how we can deal with that. Now we have many applications that we can download, and the application will show you like teach you how you can separate the waste and also call the collector guys to the household. You can connect them with the applications. And then in Thailand, we usually have the local man together with the cargo and the bikes. We call Thai language like Salings. This one is really famous, the collector guy in Thailand, about 1.5 million guys around the country. And they will collect the plastic waste from the household, and then they will send them to the middle guys or some company, and the company also will buy the waste, and also depend, as I mentioned, depend on the size and facility. Some just can separate, clean it, and also some also can produce it as a recycled material as well. And this slide just would like to show the example how recycled plastic can integrate back into the textile industry. Like the first process, we have to clean the bottom and then dry it, and also make it small, and also have the specific machine melt it and produce it as a raw plastic material. And also we can mix with the polyester fiber, and at the end we can have the fabric in order to produce the clothes. Sorry. Okay, and after the whole process, I would like to show the price or of the plastic at the household. From the household, we start from like 1 to 12 baht, and after that, it increasing along the process until we can have the price of the recycled plastic like about 50 to 60 baht per kilogram. And also if we comparing with the new plastic, it's also like 2 times lower than the new plastic. That also another convincing things for the business partner and also for the entrepreneurship. Okay, and then this slide, I would like to show you the upcycling trends and also the company in Thailand. The company name is Thai Pepita. For this company, they already use the recycled PET bottom into their process until they produce the fabric. And since last 10 years ago, they export the fabric to the big sport wear name like Nike and North Face. And also successfully right now, just last year, they start have their own names, like the name is Urban BK. And also they start selling their own clothes because they would like to direct contract with the end user, because previously They're just like selling the fabric to the sportwear company, and also they cannot promote like, okay, their fabric come from the recycled material, but now just the last year they start have their own material and also their own clothes wear. And based from our interviews with many entrepreneurs in Thailand, also we have for them also still have many challenges that in order to deal and stay in this circular business as well. For the first one, also still lack of the mechanism to collaborate in order to go into the circular economy business, and also the second one, still lack of the law and regulations that set up here, and also the incentive measurements. And the third one also still lack of the information or the successful case of entrepreneur for them for study, and also the information in order to do the feasibility study of the business model. And also mostly our perceptions also we may have to concern the sustainability as a cost, not as an investment, and also still lack of the investments and supporting funds. And at the end also would like to promote like end user awareness in the region. Yeah, okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Athalya, for touching on the entrepreneurship through new business models and disruptive technologies, as well as using the digital technologies. And now, last but not the least, the brain behind all this, Professor Chiturapan Vishwanathan, which is well known as Professor Vishu, to talk about the capacity building needs and means to promote circular economy in plastic waste management. Professor Vishu.
Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much, Dr. Mushtaq, for this introduction. Let me take the next 10 minutes and make a short wrap-up presentation. I've been given the task of come up with the capacity building needs and means to promote circular economy. We have listened to the part on circular economy on upstream and downstream. Let me start with this first one, ask this question. Is circular economy a reality today? Circular economy is discussed in every level, but is it really happening? Or it is just a buzzword? This is the fundamental question I like to throw. If you listen to all these presentations, circular economy should be booming. But if you go to the field, even today, many of the developing countries go to a dump site, this is what we see. Plenty of plastics there in the dump sites. Very often in the past, dump site used to be brown color or a green color, but today it's become white color because so much of plastic lands in the dump site in the thing. So reality and what we are talking, maybe it's not matching. This lack of matching maybe could be, you need to ask this question, are we training the right people? If we talk about needs here, the capacity building, if you look at it on this side, you have this classic linear economy, and what we need is on this side, circular economy, and which basically consists of 5-6 components, depends on how people present the circular economy, but basically on circular resource and energy supplies, resource recovery from waste, industrial symbiosis, product as a service, product lifecycle extension, redesigning product. And if you listen to this last 1 hour, 1.5 hours presentation, if you look at it, even generally we talk about here, it's the what actually is taking is the resource recovery from waste is the driver of the circular economy. We are forgetting all the other components, or we are not doing it as fast as other components are still on a sleeping mode. And many of our capacity building today is driven by waste to energy or waste treatment and etc. And we say that is circular economy. Is that what we want? And on the upstream, we talked about policies, and we also know like plastic management can be done by banning plastic, and we found the pitfalls. And this tells you, you can come up with a ban, and mankind is good enough to break the ban. Okay, so the issue is banning is not a solution. And we talk about something using product as a service. Yes, it has been happening in other sectors, like a photocopying machine, carpooling, and etc. It's happening. But is it happening in a plastic sector? Can you point out some good examples? Product as service, it's an issue. That's when the circular economy, one segment of the wheel is missing. Okay. What we say is sort of, this is what I like to summarize the current circular economy, the different components. Okay, sourcing, manufacturing, logistic, marketing and sales, product use, end of the life, 3R, and etc. And if you look at it very carefully, not all of them are working on the same level. The 3R and end of life disposal, that's what we call waste treatment. This is what its driver moving. So others are lacking. Are we training only 3R and waste management professionals? If you ask me, I'm a professional environmental engineers. I'm involved in teaching environmental engineering. I teach circular economy, but still our trust is on 3R and waste treatment. Is it correct? Maybe there is a gap. I mean, that is what we need to think about it carefully. What we have is lean economy. What we want is a circular, the third one. But what actually we are training is we are training people to on recycling and treatment. I think that is important to understand. There is a gap, okay? Recycling and waste treatment, we have to clearly understand it's not circular economy. It is only a part of a circular economy. So if you wanted to do this, I ask you another fundamental question. And we have found when you talk about circular economy and say somebody's companies doing circular economy, let's ask them, what are your indicators? Okay, when I say I'm driving fast, I have an indicator of I am driving 100 kilometers per hour. That's an indicator. In a circular economy, when people talk, you ask them, look at many of the companies, the documents or many municipalities which says we are in circular economy. These are the indicators they'll state. Waste collection rate, waste segregation rate, recycling rate, energy conversion rate, and all these things. It is actually one component of circular economy, waste treatment and 3R. So it's important to understand we have not got the correct type of indicators to measure circular economy to move to the next level. And we need to get that understanding very clearly, and we need to do that. Now I said the needs, and we need to go to the means. To go to the means, we need to get that gap filled by capacity. The capacity building has to be done on a different level, individual level, institutional level, and etc. And the goal is essentially to train correct type of people to the circular economy. And it is also very important, there are different actors involved, and we need to have a sort of synergetic skill development is necessary with a system thinking approach. It's not that only 3R and waste management, go to any sector that alone cannot be a circular economy. So we need to look at it, an interdisciplinary action between engineers, social scientists, managers, and policy experts are required. Okay. To do this, AIT as a regional institute, we have been spearheading in the past as one of the leading institutions to promote and educate sustainable consumption and production. We work very closely with different UN organizations, especially in UNEP and etc. Now we are moving from that part of a sustainable consumption and production to circular economy. How we are doing it is, the first action we are doing it is trying to bring out an online course by April 2021 with a partnership with the UNEP and Swiss Asia program. And these are the course content, these materials will be available, which sort of covers on a different aspect of, as I say, the circular economy in plastic waste management. In addition to this, currently AIT is running a professional master's program and marine plastic abatement. Okay, it's a one-year graduate program, and it's very much be interested. Any of you are interested in participating in it, you could apply for this. We have the first batch of students. We have around 40 students from different parts of Asia already with us. We have started, and the second batch will be joining the January 2021, and this program will be continuing further. I think my time is up. With this note, I'll stop here. Maybe I just throw 3 questions to think as a points to ponder. As the industry recognize the importance to move towards circular economy, I wanted to ask these questions. Are they really ready? And they have to move it, and it's not the waste treatment. How do you do it? That's important. Are we willing to take the risk of undergoing a cultural change? If we wanted to see earlier, we are selling products, now we are going to sell service. So there's a cultural change, and there's has to be necessary to develop a right benchmark. And it's also as important, the circular economy going to bring a lot of green jobs. Okay, so it's means social aspects. Earlier we are selling products. Now we are not selling any more products. We might be selling service. So you need to train people in a different way. Are we ready? Are we doing that correctly? For overall employment opportunities, do we have the wide range of courses and qualifications? Maybe earlier we need managers, but maybe now you need more technical people because you're providing services. So you need to have a totally rethinking. Okay, and that is important. I think both industries and academic institutions need to understand this concept. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Professor Vishu, for waking us up that circular economy does not mean waste management, and it needs more. Now, though, we have quite many Q&A, and my colleagues was asking if we do the Q&A, but my suggestion that in the interest of time, we better put the Q&A in more of blocks, and then we can pass on to our experts and get answers and post there. However, what we can still do that we have a 1 minute to each expert to sum up based on the cross-learning within this webinar and the regional dialogue. So that's what I suggest, that we park the Q&A, we go with the detailed analysis of the questions itself, we block them properly, we put them to the experts, we get the answers, and then we post accordingly. So for today, I would like, because of in interest of time, let's have 1 minute to each of our experts. So first, let me invite Mr. Jerome Labonne for his final views and also the next steps. So Mr. Jerome, over to you, please.
Okay, so it's working. Yeah, thanks a lot, and thanks for all the speakers. It was a very interesting cross dialogue, as you say, as we were able to look at different point of view from different actors. I must say, I think the message of Dr. Vishu was to the point, especially his first slide, showing exactly the fact that everybody talk about circular economy, but we can't see the effect yet. I'll go even further. I will say that if today you look at waste management, or if you look at a project regarding waste, I think you're going to the wrong direction. I think you have to address circularity and sustainability as a whole. And I will say that to the message of the entrepreneur, which was also quite interesting, is that if you are making a startup to address a waste management issue, I think that you are not looking at the problem the right way. When it comes to waste management, there's a lot of existing solution, and I think that I would say as a European, that European has been leading, but Japan also, and even China I've been finding a lot of things about waste management. So innovation should work on addressing sustainability and addressing circularity. And I think this is a key point. And you can see that from Kunva Simon's presentation that SCG is that's what they are looking at. That's what they are looking at. They are looking at technology not to address the waste problem, but to address sustainability and circularity, because this is where the future is going to be. And as Dr. Visu pointed out, this is also where capability needs to be done. Another last point, and I think I enjoyed the presentation from my colleague in the UN. Regulation is at the heart of everything, and I think that it's one of the challenges you can see from the entrepreneurs. It's a challenge for companies like SCG, and it's also a challenge for companies like Suez. But when there is no regulation, it's extremely hard to set up a business because the risk become extremely high, and the economics might not be in favor of a sustainable solution. Because unfortunately, to these days, even if there's all this talk, the environmental cost of products is not priced. And therefore, if you are working on sustainability, what you are, the main benefit you're having, which is an environmental benefit, is not considered as valuable today as it should be. That will be my summary of the session.
Thank you, Mr. Jerome Labonne. And now let me invite my colleague, Dr. Feng Wang from UNEP. Dr. Feng Wang, the floor is yours, please.
Yeah. So also coming here, I think this is very rich session today. Hearing from everybody, I have 3 key points to summarize, at least from UNEP side. There are 3 sides, and the first thing is that we still haven't seen a clear reduction in consumption and production of different plastic, because we talk a lot about recycling and circularity, but the key thing is how do we address the issue from the source. So that's where we have to see a lot of original actions and let's say new business model to tackle it. So that's just the first point. The second thing is that still measurement is key. Without being able to measure and understand the current situation and also compare progress, it's very hard to see where we are standing and also how we are approaching the topic. So I think still introducing harmonized methodology, indicators, and ways to evaluate the status quo and also project for future is critical. This means that we need harmonized terminologies and also methods to measure. So still research and also assessment is critical. The final point I want to stress is that tackling the plastic pollution is not a standalone national or city level issue. It also involves transboundary movement. This means that cooperation among countries, among governments, and among business is critical, because we see a lot of issues with, let's say, trade deal, banning the import and etc. So there has to be also a collaboration at global level, intergovernment level, and also within business. So this is the 3 takeaway points for the session. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Feng Wang. So now let's move to Dr. Wasimon Ronglat. Dr. Wasimon, the floor is yours for your final thoughts, please. Is Dr. Wasimon online? Yeah. Okay. Then let me take to the next, to the Dr. Alitaya for the final words, please.
Yes, from my point, I'm represent like small entrepreneur. Better from the presentation and also from our expert. From my point, if we would like to sustain the business as a long term by ourselves, the lacking points from us is still like we need some strong regulation in order to put everyone in the same line. And also another thing that still needs support is about the collaboration between all stakeholders in along the way of the circular way in order to close the loop. Okay, that from my part. Thank you.
Hello, and is it Dr. Wasimon?
Yes, sorry.
Sorry. So can you please have your final thoughts in a minute? Thank you, Dr. Wasimon. Over to you.
Yeah, I think the presentation that you put up today from everyone is a very good presentation because it's really show how different topics should be part of important picture. Like the policy will be very important. And of course, the technology and the solution. And of course, you still require somebody new in terms of entrepreneurship in order to help. And lastly, about how to promote this. So sorry that I'm just running from another room. Okay, I think my final thought is like, if we could create a kind of environment to work together and sharing information, not just from this talk, but you are very welcome to contact and collaborate with us. And it will be very good for us to create this kind of environment in Thailand. If AIT could be a center as well, right?
Thank you. And thank you, Dr. Wasimon. So basically, we will be providing the recording for this one. And if we get also the permission for the slides, we can. Otherwise, that's also part of anyway the recording. So that will be available. And before the closing, I just want to make an announcement that our upcoming events, so two is still on the sustainable lifestyles. One is looking on the sustainable food management, and other one is looking on the packaging in food industry. And then we have two more on the circular economy. One will be on the innovations and startups for the circular economy. And the second one is on the circular cities. So looking at the circular economy within the cities context. And then also we have a project with AIT on the COVID-19 plastics and packaging waste. So there will be quite a few regional and country level webinars and also the reports coming out of that. But then we, under our circular economy for Asia Pacific, will be establishing a network of the experts on circular economy and network of stakeholders. Then also the knowledge platform for the circular economy, and hopefully we'll be starting executive program on circular economy with initially 2 modules to start with early next year. So at that note, please stay tuned for our next activities. And if you have any suggestions, any questions, please keep sending us, and we will try to touch with you. So thank you again. Thank you, experts. Thank you, colleagues. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice rest of the day. Thank you, and bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.